Hello, my beautiful baddies. Welcome back to another episode of Your Inner Baddie Speaking. We're back to the love letter collection today, and so I have yet another love letter that I've written to myself. This one in particular stems from, I think, the day that I wrote this, I was feeling extremely depressed, sad. I'm pretty sure I wrote it as I was crying. So this one for me obviously is very near and dear to my heart, because anytime you write something during a place of pain or hurt, it can honestly mean even more to you, because you remember where you were, you remember what you were doing, what you were thinking, how you were feeling in that moment. And it's almost as if, just like other things can do this for you, like music can do this, or other areas of life can do this, but it's almost as if reading it takes you back and transports you back to that time and place when this was happening. And so I think for me, this love letter is extremely powerful in the fact that not only does it transport me to that place of vulnerability and that place of pain and that feeling of just being so extremely down, but it also almost represents now that I'm not in that place when I read it. And of course, there are days when I'll read this because I really need to hear it, and they might be harder days than others. But now that I'm not in a place of that hurt and pain, it's almost as if there's a triumph that comes out of it. And the feeling of reading it again is not only, I can recognize that I was in that place where I was so low and where I needed to write this in order to see the light, I guess. And now being in a place where I am the light, I embody that on a consistent basis, is just, it's almost fascinating and kind of relieving, honestly, of being able to sit here and say, I'm not in that, or I'm at least not in that dark of a place. Like now when I need these love letters as a reminder to myself of how much I love myself, or how much I am worthy of my own love, sometimes it's amazing to see that I am in a better place, and my bad days now are nowhere near the heaviness that I carried back when I wrote it. And I think that's, I think there's experiments that have been done all over the place where, you can write a letter to your future self, or you wish like what you could tell your younger self, or what you want to be doing in the future, and you're speaking to your future self. Like there are experiments about I think actually that's funny, I didn't actually remember this until just now, but when I was in kindergarten, our teacher had us write letters to ourselves and include pennies, because pennies were supposed to represent good luck. And so we wrote letters to ourselves, and we put the pennies in them, and we sealed the letters up. And I had completely forgotten about them until, I want to say it was either I graduated high school or I graduated college. I feel like high school probably makes more sense, but I honestly don't remember which period it was that I read it back. But she sent those letters to us, or at least to the address that we had. Probably, I would assume it went to it did go to my family address at the time. So she mailed them to us and we were able to read them years later. And it's incredible to be able to hear from like little old me, you know, and what she had to say to this now grown woman. And so there are all different ways that, you know, you can achieve kind of the same thing, or people have kind of experimented with talking to themselves either in the future or in the past, and being in a different place, reading something that you had already written. And I think it's I just think it's powerful because I need the reminder that I love myself, but also it reminds me that I'm no longer at that dark of a stage of my life. And every step of healing brings you to a better place. And I think having those little reminders that as you do these things and as you grow with the love within yourself and you grow that confidence and you grow your inner body, the more and more you do that, the more and more that when you're stuck in a time of need or you're stuck in a place of pain, you can reflect and say, yeah, this is bad, and whatever the situation might be, it could really weigh on you. But there's also that sense of reflection of, but I don't feel how I used to, or I'm not reacting the same way that I used to. And for me, I think it's incredible to be able to witness myself react or feel differently than I used to. And I've even had conversations with friends and family where I would say it's wild to me that I'm not reacting the same way, or I don't feel the same way. And man, me 3 years ago would have just been not able to pick myself off the floor. And here I am today being able to talk myself through a similar situation. Because again, I think a common theme that I talk about is life doesn't stop getting hard. Life will have hard moments. And as you learn how to love yourself, you learn how to tackle them better. And I can't believe the way that I will approach some situations now, or I will approach getting hurt or heartbreak differently now than I would have years ago. And I think that's a testament to the growth and the effort that you put into yourself. And I think as you hopefully write letters to yourself, reminding yourself that you love yourself, you also take that time when you're reading them after you write them to remember you've grown so much since the time that you wrote that. And even if it's not like, maybe it's a love letter about how much you love experiencing joy and how much you love that you get to feel joy again. It doesn't have to be, something dark or something sad that you're writing a love letter about. But even being able to read that years down the line, you might experience even more joy than you ever thought. Or you wrote that letter and you're like, man, I'm experiencing life and I'm feeling joy in such a way that I never did before. And now 3 years down the line, you're reading that love letter and you're thinking to yourself, man, today I feel more joy than I felt 3 years ago. And it's beautiful to reflect on that journey. And I think you should appreciate absolutely every step on that journey, because even if it's the slightest difference on either how you react or how you handle pain, or the amount of time you let the pain consume you, or it's reflecting on the fact that you experience and have grown and love yourself even more than you did back then, appreciate that. Love yourself for doing that for you, because you did that. You did the work to be able to feel that way. And all that to say, when I was writing this and I was feeling overcome with sadness and the tears rolling down my face, because one tendency that I have, and I've examined this within myself, and I've taken a lot of steps to be able to get further away from how I felt and how I have felt in the past about this. But one very big indicator of me going into either a depressive episode or starting to feel really down about myself is I convince myself, and sometimes this is hard to admit, but I convince myself that I'm unlovable and that no one cares about me. And that's not to say that I didn't have friends or family in my life when I felt this way, but sometimes you feel so alone. And the more and more you tell yourself that story, I like to say that, well, I don't like to, but this is how I describe it, of my depression is almost like it takes over my brain, where the thoughts I would normally think or the things I would normally do are not what I'm telling myself and not what I'm doing. So if I'm starting to feel like I'm unworthy and no one cares about me, it's like a snowball effect. It starts with that one thought of, okay, I'm not feeling so good. I'm, starting to go down this dark mindset, to it's like my depression slowly starts telling myself more and more and more. And it'll give me more and more reasons to feel unloved, to feel like nobody cares about me. And it could be so small as like someone hasn't texted me back in 24 hours. And now that's another thing that my depression can tell me. They don't love you. They don't care about you. Why wouldn't they have sent a text? Why wouldn't they have checked in on you if they loved you, if they cared about you? And so it just snowballs and snowballs until I can't hear or see anything that isn't those negative thoughts, that isn't that feeling of being unloved or not cared for. And so it's like an all-consuming thing. And I'm very proud to say that today, if I was to have the same thought, I would not go down that rabbit hole. And I've learned ways to not let my depression consume me. But when I'm in it, it's like there's nothing beyond it. A veil has been pulled over me, and that's all I see. And so for me to get to a place where I am so emotional and feeling so unloved, to write down words to remind myself that I love me, that is such a form of strength. And I want you to know that if you are ever in a moment or in a place where you are consumed by, or the feeling is so strong that you are in this vulnerable place of pain, and you still have the notion to remind yourself that you love yourself and to tell yourself that you love yourself, I want you to pat yourself on the back. And I know probably in that moment you might not be able to, but when the veil is pulled back, when the thoughts leave you, when that hurt subsides, remember that you were strong enough to pull yourself out. Because whether telling yourself right then or saying it, thinking it, feeling it pulled you out immediately, or whether it helped pull you out, you did that. You did that. And so I think we should all give ourselves grace for when we're feeling down. And then we should all really feel so fucking proud of ourselves for finding any part of you that's able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and go towards it. And not in like a movie dying way, but in like you grab onto the one positive thing and you keep pulling at it until you're out of it. And this love letter is my first beam of light to be able to see I can get out of this. And as I say it, as I read it, I can get out of it. And maybe one day I won't even need to read this love letter because I'll know it and feel it in my core so deeply. But maybe I'll want to read it anyways for fun, but I won't need it. So this love letter really helped pull me out of a very depressive state. And I'll read it for you now. I want you to know, especially when you forget or when your depression tells you otherwise, how much I love you. You've been so strong for so long that all those soft parts of you you've tried to protect can be put behind the walls you created to save yourself from pain. But if I know anything to be true, it's that the pain comes anyways, especially when we don't let the light in, when we aren't soft with ourselves. I want you to take a deep breath and remember that I love you, and I will always think you are enough. You are everything. Remember those days you spent building yourself back up so you could feel that way. Remember all the times you spent loving yourself so you knew that you'd always have your love to rely on. Don't lose sight of that now. Love yourself deeply. Make yourself smile. Give a hug to yourself. Hold yourself close when your mind isn't on your side. Repeat until you believe it. You are enough. You are loved. You are worthy. You are enough. You are loved. You are worthy. You are enough. You are loved. You are worthy. You always have the love you give yourself, and no one else can take that away from you. I love you. One of the things that I wrote about in that love letter is kind of the way that we can create walls to almost protect us from the pain that we're experiencing or predicting that we're going to experience. And I learned, and this works for me, that those behaviors, once I'm out of survival mode, no longer serve me. That approaching things from that same place of pain doesn't serve me. And that I want to approach myself and others from a soft, loving place. And I think for me, even putting up those walls for other people almost kept them up even with myself. And you can't love yourself if you've got walls in the way. You can't love others if you keep them out. And I hope that in reading letters like this one, that hopefully you'll write to yourself, that you'll remember, I came from a place where I was hurting, and I took steps to get to a place where I'm thriving. And with that, say it with me, I'm a fucking baddie. All right, love y'all till next time.